Well, welcome in everybody to another episode of the Storyworld Podcast. Steve Schramm here with, of course, the famous, the notorious, the one and only, ya boy, Al.
I probably am the one and only, just like this, the one and only.
I promise. You are. Mm-hmm.
How you doing, Steve?
Man, I'm great. I'm so good. I can hardly stand it.
You got
busy.
You got a new kitten prowling around in your office. You excited?
Oh yeah, she's look at that. She's making her Storyworld debut. If you're watching on video, she's making her Storyworld debut. So it's real. Here's the thing. I love cats. I really do. As much as we didn't need another mouth to feed, and as much as I was rolling my eyes when my wife's like, "We got to bring home this kitten," I can't help it. I much prefer cats to dogs. They're low maintenance. They're sweet. They can climb, get out of the way. I just love cats. And they think, and they're like, cats know they're awesome. You know what I mean? Like, dogs are insecure. I feel like they always need, they need you to, reaffirm them or something. They're all, but cats are like, yeah, I'm bad. What you gonna do about it? You know what I mean? I love cats.
That's awesome. So, I'm happy for you, Steve.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy too, I guess. So, in this one, we're going to be talking about a movie that you told me about. I feel like it was pretty, right around the start of when we started doing this, because you're a big Christopher Nolan fan.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've been kind of talking this movie up, and we had finally got to it a few weeks ago, and now we're going to talk about it. So this episode is going to be on the big screen, talking about the movie Memento. And when I say big screen, I mean a big screen. Alex, it's got a huge TV. It's a little excessive, to be honest. It's insane.
I swear I can't afford anything now for the next 10 years.
Right.
but it
makes
was
for
worth
some fantastic movie watching and video game playing, I'm sure.
Yes.
So hey, video games. Are you a Zelda guy by chance? Have you got the new Zelda? Or
I used to be, and then I'm one of the, I don't know, probably 10% of the population that played Breath of the Wild, and I couldn't get into it. I think it's because, I guess subjectively, I could say it's a great game. I can see why it's considered one of the top of all time, but it just felt like the enemies were the same. Yeah, I don't know. I put in 60 hours into it. I actually gave it a chance. I went through it and I just couldn't finish it. It just, I don't know, it just bored me.
Wow, that's interesting, because one of my other buddies was saying it's the best game ever. He's been begging me to get it forever so that I could play it and be just be bewildered by it,
I wish I loved it. I really did. Like I said, I gave it a really good go. I put in the hours I wanted to, and I really couldn't get into it.
Interesting. So I was going to say that's huge. Video, if you're a video gamer, it's huge news apparently. And so
I'm jealous of people that do love it. I see that the new one's released, everyone's loving it, and I just know if I get it and try to play it, it's probably going to be the same thing. So I'm really upset that people get to enjoy it.
Maybe you should give it another shot. Maybe I should.
I've debated. Maybe I should just think another 60 hours and for
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk Memento. And this was, I'm going to let you do the synopsis and kind of introduce the movie a little bit, but I have to say it was a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed it. So no holding back the spoiler there. I don't, maybe we should start giving these a star rating. Maybe we should just subjectively, you give it a star rating, I give it a star rating after we're done.
That's a good idea.
We need to kind of decide on what's a 10 though? What's an objective 10 that you and I can both agree on?
How about this?
Now? I don't know.
What might be fun is maybe to, in another episode, how about we take we kind of recoup after this episode, come up with a rating system, and then maybe we could do a fun bonus episode or even its own, kind of recap some of our movies that we watched or all of them, and then kind of,
I like that.
Then go back and give them each a rating.
I like that. That's fun.
Okay,
that
cool.
Sounds good.
So no ratings tonight, but we'll give a star rating to all the movies we've seen so far.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
But so Memento. I guess Steve Curry mentioned about a little background. I'm a huge Nolan fan. I think Steve now is too. So some movies that we've watched by him together have been The Prestige. I think that was the first one we saw together by him. And then we also watched Interstellar, another great movie. And then Memento. So I think this is the third movie we've sat down and actually watched by him. I'm surprised it's taken us this long to watch Memento, but yeah, here we are.
Yeah, because I love a good time movie. So
yeah, and that's all. So, full spoilers ahead for anyone who hasn't seen it. Definitely go watch it. So, the synopsis, I'm just reading it off from the internet. The film follows Leonard Shelby, played by Guy Pearce, a man who suffers from, I can't pronounce that word, amnesia, short-term amnesia, resulting in short-term memory loss and the inability to form new memories. He searches for the men who attacked him and raped and killed his wife, using an elaborate system of Polaroid photographs, handwritten notes, and tattoos to track information he won't remember. The film's non-linear narrative is presented as 2 different sequences of scenes interspersed during the film, a series in black and white that is shown chronologically, and a series of color sequences shown in reverse order, simulating for the audience the mental state of the protagonist. The 2 sequences meet at the end of the film, producing one complete and cohesive narrative. So I think they said it pretty well, but in layman's terms, pretty much the half of the movie, you'll watch one scene in black and white. That's technically the beginning of the movie. And then you'll watch the very first scene of the movie is actually in color, and it's the last scene of the movie. And so you watch a scene in color, then you watch a scene in black and white, then another scene in color, then black and white, color, black and white, and then they meet in the middle, which is the conclusion of the film. I think I explained that quite accurately enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It was a little confusing to me at first, like exactly where and how far back the black and white was going. At what point in time exactly?
If it was like a year in the past or a day or
yeah. It was that piece of it was really confusing. It's been a couple weeks since I've seen it now. I guess it's been maybe a month or so. Gosh, time, man.
And it's been like at least 3 weeks because I've been sick for 3 weeks. I think it was right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's been a few weeks now. One of the things that, and again, it could just be the distance in time since I've watched it. Plus, it's one of those movies that I feel like you really need to watch over and over again to like grasp all the things, and that seems to be a Nolan thing. But one of the things that like I feel like there were some plot lines that I didn't quite. I want to say they're incomplete, but I'm not sure if it's that they're incomplete or that I just didn't quite get. Like, there was one scene where, basically there's this girl that somewhat befriends the guy, and of course the guy's got no short-term memory, and so like, there's this one scene where where she comes in acting like her I think it was her boyfriend, like really messed her up.
Someone who owed her boyfriend money, or someone who her boyfriend owed money. Yeah.
Okay, right. Like really but then like, so in one scene you saw that, and so like you're kind of thinking that, right? But then as it goes back further, you see what actually happened is like she took advantage of his memory loss and like intentionally like made him really, really mad. It wasn't really clear to me, number one, like so she made him really, really mad and got her to like got him to hit her, and then she like goes out to the car, and then he comes in later and he like totally forgets that it ever happened. That was one of those things where like it wasn't really clear to me in the moment why she did that, because like I didn't really see like some huge resolution like in earlier / later in the story, like to that whole storyline that really brought all that together. And then like, so I didn't really see why she did that, like what part it actually had to play. And then also I felt it was a little inconsistent because it at least seemed like there were longer periods of time that he could go, like, you know what I mean? And like still have his memory, where like in that particular scene, it couldn't have been more than like a 5-minute real time period of time between when she had that to happen, went out to the car and came back in, and then he forgot again. Like it real time, it wasn't that long. And there are plenty of other scenes where the real time seems longer, where the guy didn't like magically forget what he was doing. So there were a couple things that I don't know that they were plot holes, and I don't know that they were even the fault of the writing. But as far as like if we were to say anything negative, I think that's really the only negative thing. Is to me, there were some things that felt disjointed, and I couldn't tell if it was just because of how sort of naturally disjointed the story was, or if it was actually a flaw, quote unquote, in the writing. So
I think the closest thing that you hit on that could come closest to the plot hole is like the timing of like the duration that he ends up like forgetting again, and he kind of like his mind resets. So like I agree. How did she know to sit out in the car for 5 minutes and then wait to come back in and have his mind like reset and he doesn't know what happened versus driving around for an hour and coming back. And I guess it's one of those things where it's like, well, he just so happened to, that was a 5-minute segment where he did. And so,
yeah, because like in order for her point to like really make sense, like what if he didn't forget, right? Like what if he had like he had to forget, and was 5 minutes enough time for that? Like, and how would she know to come back anyway? So that was kind of like, okay, that's a little.
So it's possible, but it's just weird how the timing worked out exactly. It's just one of those things. I will explain to you though that kind of watching it for the first time and in reverse when you're really just trying to figure out what's happening, that kind of side story could definitely get confusing. I do think that part of it is to throw you off the first time you're watching it. Because you're like, what is this psycho woman doing? What's happening? And basically, like, so if you were to like watch it, like literally in order, what happens is, so Leonard, the main guy, is set up to have this drug deal with a guy, and obviously his friend Teddy, the bad cop, wants him to end up stealing the money from this drug dealer, and so that's who he ends up killing, and that's this woman's boyfriend that he kills. She knows about this guy because I don't know if you remember, but kind of towards the end of the movie, which is actually the beginning in a way, she goes down to talk to her boyfriend in the car, and it's actually Leonard driving the car. And then when he comes to the bar, she says, "You're that memory guy." So she kind of knows who he is. And then when she realizes that he actually like killed her boyfriend, she's kind of smart because she starts saying, okay, so my boyfriend's dead, but I have this guy here. I have people that I know are waiting for money from my boyfriend, but he can't pay them. So they're going to come after me. So she literally uses his problem, his issue, as a way to convince him that he needs to go and take care of this guy so that she can get him. So it definitely is 100% a side story. It is her side. So in that side story, she's the hero. So you have to look at it from her perspective then. It almost switches where, so in her perspective, okay, my boyfriend's dead. I got this memory guy who has short term. I'm going to, mess with his mind and get him to think that this guy beat me up, get him to, like me and make him think I'm good. And I wouldn't necessarily say she was bad, but she also obviously had some issues too.
Of course.
But and then convince him to take care of this guy for me since my boyfriend can't be here to take care of him now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So that's helpful. It's definitely like, I'm not smart enough to have like really caught all of that during the first watch through for sure. I don't know if I watched it back.
I don't know if you remember. Again, I've probably watched it 20 times, and so every time I watch certain scenes, I love little things in there. So the first time, I forget exactly where the scene cuts, or if you remember, but one of his memory cuts where she comes in with her face all messed up after he just punched her, and of course he's forgotten now. He's like, "What happened?" And she said, Dodd punched me." And that scene goes on. He's like, "Well, let me take care of him for you." So she writes down the address, and at the end of that scene, he kind of flexes his fist because his knuckles hurt and he doesn't know why. And it's because 5 or 10 minutes before he had punched her, but he doesn't know it. And of course, the next scene you see him punch her, but you kind of forget at the end of that one scene, you kind of see him flexing his hand. He's like, "That's weird. Like my hand hurts," and he has no idea why. So just little stuff like that where you watch
I'd probably see that.
It's so
20th time.
Yeah. It's so good.
Okay. So anyway. That's a very fair assessment. I definitely feel like I will not be able to fully appreciate what I saw until I see it probably a number of times. And I have to be honest, that's probably true about The Prestige as well. It's probably true there.
Looking at it too from, I guess you could say from a creative mind, what a difference from a profit perspective, the fan perspective, from a way to make something successful is to have people keep coming back. So, I mean, if you can go and watch, that's a huge reason why the first Avatar movie that came out in 2009 was such a huge success, because people kept coming back because they had never seen anything like it before. The storyline was okay, but the visuals and the world and everything was an experience that people had never experienced before. And it's kind of the same thing with the Nolan films, where you walk out and you think, wow, that was odd. Like, and then not just that you want to see it again, but you need to see it to have it make even more sense.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, no, I agree. So that's so cool. So that is I think something that we can legitimately say is a feather in the cap of the movie. It's just how intelligently it's written, and not only that, but just how intelligently everything is presented. I mean, when I saw, I was probably by like the third or fourth of those cutscenes when it takes about that long to really start to understand what's happening,
how it's doing it,
the order of things. Like, it starts out very intense. It's an intense first scene of a movie, if I've ever seen one. And then you kind of go back and forth, and you're like, oh, okay, I see what they did there. That's really clever, And I love a good movie about time, and this was definitely one where time played a pretty big role, not in the not in the sci-fi sense, right? It's not that time was being manipulated like in the other one was totally, I'm drawing a blank. Even though that was supposed to be somewhat science-y, there's some questions about that. Anyway, what's the movie? What is the movie? The one with the guy, Matthew McConaughey.
Interstellar.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. I kept wanting to call it Supernatural. Anyway, so Interstellar. Yeah. So that one, right? There was time stuff going on that was like potentially science-y, probably more science fiction-y than anything else. But then this one was not a manipulation of time, at least physically. It was a sort of manipulation of time just in the presentation of it. And it was really cool how they did that. Now, this is another one, correct me if I'm wrong, that was like his brother actually wrote it as like a short story first.
I think so. I get confused with all of the movies because his brother has a hand in pretty much all of them, I believe, and has like directly like written them right off the back first, and then Nolan has adapted them to the screen. So yeah, his brother seems to have a hand in most of them, and I think he did for Memento as well.
I feel like we talked is Inception a Nolan movie or no?
Yeah,
it is. Okay,
that's one where we'll have to watch that one too because I remember it pretty well. But you said you've only seen it maybe once.
I did. I saw it one time in theaters, and I was like, this was again, it came out a while ago, and I was not like any kind of a movie buff, nor did I approach anything intelligently, especially not movies. And so I feel like it would take a little bit extra thought to really understand what was happening. And I could give it that kind of thought now, whereas before I wouldn't have. So.
We'll have to do that one again. That to me, you can obviously like the Batman ones are way up there, especially like a lot of consider his The Dark Knight to be his best movie, which that could definitely be argued. But my three favorite are definitely The Prestige, Interstellar, Memento, and then probably Inception. Those are the ones that deal really the most with time in really cool ways. But yeah, Memento, I think I was telling you, if you haven't seen it yet, well, I hope that you paused this and went and watched it before you started listening to this. But the first day I watched it, I think I was just started college. I was 18 or 19 or something. And I started to get into Nolan then, and this is one of his older ones. And so I finally decided to watch it. So I watched it during the middle of the day and I thought, wow, this is great. So then when my mom got home from work, I said, hey, you got to watch this with me. So I watched it with my mom. And then my parents are divorced and my dad lived 10 minutes away. So I drove down the road and I watched it with my dad that night. So I literally watched Memento 3 times the first day I watched it because I had to show someone how awesome the movie was.
Man.
The thing that what I really like about it is somehow it's almost like a touching movie in a way. So some of the music involved and you really like feel for Leonard and you really kind of want him to see justice. The movie kind of takes your focus away because you're trying to focus on the moment to moment. It's very action filled, but then it has these quiet moments where you see him like really suffering with remembering his wife, because I don't know if it mentions it in the movie or if it's kind of implied, but since he has short-term memory loss, the last thing he remembers every single time he wakes up in the morning or has like a brain reset is his wife dying, because that's the last permanent memory that he has in his mind. And I just think that the movie does a pretty good job balancing all that out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Another piece of it that was interesting to me was, so at the end, and I'm not, again, if you haven't seen the movie, this is all probably really confusing. You kind of, when we do these, movie reviews and stuff, like you kind of have to have seen the movie in order for what we talk about to
we kind of pick and go around. I think there's only been one movie, and that was the Prestige, where we went from start to finish, and that was it.
Yeah, and since like me and you were the only ones who actually listen to our podcast, probably anyway, it's like it's mostly for us, right? So who cares? But basically at the end, slash middle, right? The end slash middle, I guess is how you would think of the story. You basically find out the motivations of the guy, the Teddy guy, the cop. Teddy, is that his name? The guy who's like he's like plays the. He's a cop, right? He's actually a cop. Is that correct?
Yeah. From everything that I understand, unless he's lying, he actually is a cop. I think.
Yeah, he's like and okay. I'm just gonna kind of like narrate what my thoughts are on this, then you can tell me how wrong I am. But like, I think the idea kind of is he's a cop. The name of basically the guy who killed his wife is like generic enough, because I think it's like, is it a first name and an initial?
John G.
John G, right? Generic enough that like anybody could have that name. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think what happens, right, is the cop genuinely like wants to help him, and so like helps, I think, right, him like kind of figure out the whole thing at the very beginning of their, if you will, journey together. Now at the end of the movie, that's the guy, the beginning slash end is that he kills that guy. But like around the middle, you see what prompts him to kill that guy, and what you start to understand about the whole storyline is that he took advantage of the situation, basically, right, to help for him to make money. Was it money? So, what was the motivation there?
So
help
again,
me out with that.
If you take Teddy's word for it, which I kind of do, he helped Leonard out at first. He was like the only cop or investigator that was like, hey, there's got to be a second guy here. I'm going to help this guy out because no one's.
Yeah, right.
Found the actual guy that was there, and Leonard killed him, and then everything was good. But whether he didn't take a note of it or whatever happened, Leonard couldn't remember killing the guy, so he just refused to accept that. He thought that his wife's killer was still out there, and so. And so basically the cop, Teddy, decided to take it to his own advantage and say, well, if this guy's just going to be crazy anyway, I'm going to take advantage of this, go after drug dealers, thugs, or whatever, have them kill them, and then I'll take their money. It basically comes down to.
Right. And then in the middle of the movie / the end, when everything comes together, is where basically, is it fair to say that he kind of like either caught on to that, or like he, because basically Teddy said it, knowing that he would forget it.
Yeah, exactly.
But what he did was he went out to the truck and made himself the note about not trusting him, basically, so that at the end of the day he would go ahead and kill that guy. And
I love that part. And was something that I haven't dug deep enough into is the psyche of Leonard, like of actually who Leonard is. Take away the memory loss, because he was so ticked off at Teddy for lying to him and everything, and didn't know what to believe and trust. He was just fed up with it. And so he literally set up his own puzzle, because he knew at the end he would end up killing Teddy. So he put down his plate number, but don't believe his lies. And I love the part where, I forget the monologue leading up to it, but he said, like, he's right now, he says, you're a John G. Like, why can't you be my guy? And it's just such it's kind of a very disturbing ending, but it's a very satisfying ending. Because the whole time, you're right at the beginning of the movie where you see that he ends up killing Teddy. So the whole movie, okay, he's going to kill Teddy. Why? And I remember, actually, that's a good question for you. I remember the first time I watched it, I knew that there was going to be some type of twist, but I really thought, okay, somewhere when this movie comes to the conclusion and the scenes meet in the middle, I'm going to find out why he wants to kill this Teddy guy. And I just did not see it going this route at all. I thought it was really going to show that Teddy really was the killer and he was like pretending to be his friend. But in the end, you just find out that is not the case.
Yeah, exactly. And there's this sense where, let's see, what's the right way to think about this? I don't know. It wasn't tremendously satisfying, right? It seemed kind of pointless. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, even though it sounds bad. It's like, I guess I just mean it like, not everything in life. I'm getting deep talking about how not deep this is, but just go with me, okay, for a minute. We're the only ones who listen anyway. So, it's kind of like, not everything in life that happens is like a huge deal. Like, that has this huge, like, philosophical payoff. Like, some things just are, and they just suck, or they don't suck, or whatever, but they just are, right? Not everything always has something larger attached to it, right? And I kind of got that sense a little bit at the end of The Prestige, too. Like, like, all this that happened, as crazy and wild as it was, like, it was just to win,
If you
know what I mean?
If you take Nolan's movies, not all of them, but just like the kind of the core, Prestige and Memento, let's just take those two. They're if you take it at face value, they're kind of depressing movies and shouldn't be ones that you enjoy. Really, when you just read the actual synopsis of it, and if you would read it, you'd be like, oh, that seems like a kind of depressing story. I don't know if I really would want to watch that. But man, the characters he creates and hooks you in, it's worth the whirlwind in the end of it. But you're right, especially with Memento, what a small like piece of the puzzle. He doesn't kill the real killer in the end. He already did that. And then at the end of it, you're almost left with, well, what's Teddy in a way, even though he was using him, Teddy in a way was at least keeping Leonard like on a track. What's Leonard going to do now that Teddy's dead? What's his life like after that? Really, in the end, it almost does kind of have a depressing side to it.
Yeah, like there's this, at least there's one sense in which it seems kind of pointless. Now, I guess there's another way that you could look at it, in that, like, ultimately, because this guy took advantage of the situation, in the end, he actually did get his just desserts, right? Like, the evil caught up to him. And so I guess there is, in a way, that larger sort of philosophical thing of almost the thing that just comes so immediately to my mind is the biblical sort of, be sure your sin will find you out sort of thing. It's like, eventually it's going to catch up to you, And so that kind of thing, definitely did happen there. If we're being honest, probably at the end of The Prestige, there's also sort of this, probably the larger, bigger picture thing of some people will do anything and sacrifice everything for the sake of the game, of winning, of whatever, right? So I'm sure there's one sense in which you could pull out the larger thing. But like, when you're just practically looking at it and you're watching it, you're like, oh, that was kind of like, so you got to think about it and do what we're doing, to get to those bigger themes, which is kind of fascinating.
Little rabbit trail, just you bringing up Prestige, I just keep thinking about the ending of that movie and how much I want to watch that movie again. The ending always gets me. Anyway,
it's so good. That's another one that I've just got to watch again to really start grasping it.
Anyway, I guess I think that's it for me with discussing Memento. It's definitely worth a watch if you haven't, or if it's been a while, watch it and enjoy it again. It's a great movie, and especially thing that's only his, I think, second or third movie that he made. I think it's his third movie. And it was really good. But
we need to, I think I mentioned this before, but I'm going to say it again. I want to read the synopsis for you. We need to watch together the movie Paycheck. You said you haven't seen that, right?
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. It's got a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's fantastic.
Some of those movies can be good.
So now, granted, this is one that I saw like a long, long time ago, and so it may not be as good as I thought it was, but I thought it was pretty good. I'm just going to read the synopsis real quick for you here. Michael Jennings, Ben Affleck, is a top-notch reverse engineer. Corporations pay him to crack the secrets of their competitors' products. When the job is done, he has his memory of it erased. So it's kind of got like some time vibes. Rethrick, Aaron Eckhart, head of a company called Alcom, hires Jennings to reverse engineer a secret government device. After the job, Jennings wakes from the memory erasure to find himself being chased by various agencies. He soon realizes that the fate of the entire world might be in his hands. So, anyway, it's exciting. We definitely need to watch that one at some point.
Okay, absolutely.
It'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be good. Cool. I'm up for anything.
Cool. Well, so let's do our stories of the week. Memento, great movie. I enjoyed watching it with you, and I enjoyed talking about it. So,
and we'll come up with an official star rating at some point.
Yes. To be decided, to be continued, all of that.
Story of the week. Yeah, I'll go ahead first. I actually have two. So the first one, and I'll show you Steve afterwards. They just came out with a new Oppenheimer trailer. Have you seen it?
No, I have not.
So that's one. Again, it's Nolan's newest one. I think Steve and I have a bro outing. I think we probably are going to go to the IMAX theater to watch it because Nolan films in IMAX, and that's the plan anyway. So new trailer for that, and that should be really good. But then I did run my half marathon last Saturday, even though I was sick, and that probably wasn't a good decision. I actually ran a half marathon in my neighborhood just as a practice, and I did excellent compared to like my goal of what I wanted to do. So I ran a 2 hour and 5 minute half marathon out front of my neighborhood, which is a 9.5 minute mile for 13 miles. And so then I set my goal for the actual half marathon to be a 9-minute mile, which would get me an hour and 58 minutes. And I knew I could do that. But then the sickness hit and it lingered for a long time. So the day before the half marathon, I felt better, but my body was not better. So everyone's heart rate's a little bit different when they run. But basically, when I ran my half marathon out front here, my average heart rate was 158, which was very good. So I knew I could pump it up a little bit. But the day of the half marathon when I was sick, after the first 10 minutes, my heart rate was up to 190.
Whoa.
And so I knew there, and I actually didn't even realize that until I was about a half hour in. The first 3 miles, I kept pace. I was with the pacing group. And I was like, man, I'm feeling tired for some reason. That's when I saw the 190 heart rate. So I knew.
Oh my gosh.
So I just knew I had to dial it back. But even after dialing it back, the last 10 miles, my heart rate never dropped below 180. And it sucked. It was tough. But I ended up crossing the finish line with like a 2 hour and 17 minute. So that was frustrating, but I'm still kind of happy that I fought through it mentally, finished it. And what kind of was a even better positive is that I ran it here and I did really well. So I know that I can cross that 2 hour mark. So a little disappointed that I was sick during it, but overall it, turned out well.
Yeah. Good.
So good. That's my little story. Little pat on the back there.
It does stink, but it's good still that you did it, pushed through it mentally, builds mental toughness. So probably a lot more than I have. So that's legit.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking is if I could fight through a sickness running 10 miles, I was pretty happy.
Well, I had one story of the week, but now I have two. So I just checked on Paramount Plus because I saw that Paycheck was distributed by Paramount. And so Paycheck is on Paramount Plus. And it's got like, you might also like. And I'm like, oh man, I didn't even realize it, but Paramount's got some great movies on here.
Yeah.
They've got The Core, which is just a class.
I've seen The Core. Yeah, I've seen The Core. Yeah. Yep.
Classic disaster film. Like, awesome, right? They've got all the Mission Impossibles on here. Event Horizon, The Italian Job. That's a fantastic movie. The Italian Job. Oh
yeah, that's a
really good one. Beverly Hills Cop. Man, they got all this stuff on here. So anyway, I kind of got excited about that. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. So my story of the week, other than that, was just this. Pardon me. Apparently, that I'm very sleepy.
Steve's even boring himself, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm bored already. as this Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor. I'm tired. It's been a long day.
That's great.
This Conor McGregor tweet from a few, I guess it was a few weeks ago now. It says, just got an Amber Alert to my phone while here in Orlando. A small and quick setup that alerts everyone there is a child missing and with full description and detail also. Very smart. I would also like to see armed protection at each school also. I have had my children at school here while stateside, and I've had my own armed guard present at the school. This was prior to the most recent school shooting also. If she shot her way into that school from the outside, my guard, who is tucked away, armed and unseen, would have seen her and taken her down, saving those children's lives. May God and his best people on earth protect our children. And I thought, man, that's just so interesting. Like, on frankly, a couple different levels. But one of the interesting levels that I thought about was like, you know, money maybe can't buy happiness in the strictest sense, but boy, money sure can buy a little bit of peace of mind when you can afford to have an armed guard tucked away at your child's school when the government won't do it. You know what I mean? And so I saw that and I was like, man, that's just really an interesting thing. It was kind of like unexpected. You don't really hear Conor McGregor talking about that kind of thing very often.
Yeah.
But in the way that he brought it up and he was talking about how his kids are protected, I thought that was really nice. And
that's cool.
And kind of fascinating.
I always thought that would be the ultimate level where you get to badassery is when you have your own bodyguards. Right. When you can afford two big guys that just follow you around, and then you just that's the level that you want to reach.
And imagine being Conor McGregor's buddy.
Right.
Is Conor protecting the bodyguards or is it the other way around?
I would love to see like a funny like montage thing of him like scolding his bodyguards for like doing something incorrect.
Right. Yeah.
That's
I know. And I'm excited. Speaking of Conor, I'm excited to see him. So I think it's May 30th that the new season of The Ultimate Fighter is premiering with him versus Michael Chandler and their teams, and then that's going to culminate in a fight between him and Chandler. And I'm just so pumped about it. I can't stand it. Oh, man, it's going to be. See, I got into the UFC thanks to you, but after Conor had already stepped away, and so like of course I knew his name because that's what happens with fighters. Like, really popular fighters, who they are because they're the brand
and they get brought up.
Yeah. So I knew who he was, but I'd never seen him like fight other than now going back and watching YouTube videos. So I'm excited about it.
I think even though he's kind of had some rough outings recently, I think McGregor's going to take Chandler. I think he's going to beat him.
Yeah, I have that feeling. And if not, it's going to be really fast.
It's still going to be a great fight no matter what. Like I say Conor, I think Conor's going to win, but I think it's like a 55-45, ordeal. Chandler could definitely take him too. It'll be really interesting.
I'll be interested to see what the odds makers have to say.
I haven't looked at it. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. So.
All right, Steve. Another one in the books.
Another one in the books. This has been another presentation of the Storyworld Podcast. Brought to you by Alex and Steve. Produced by Alex and Steve. Written by Alex and Steve. Uploaded by Alex and Steve. I don't know. We can just keep on going. We don't.
Just keep going.
So
that is all.
I would never listen to this podcast if I was if I was a human. I would never listen to this podcast.
At this point, we could keep talking now, and it does not matter because no one will ever hear the next half hour of things that we have to say.
That's exactly right. But you know what? Here's the thing. In like 40 years, when like we have our names on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and all of that stuff, we're going to look back on these early episodes and be like, man, it was just two kids having fun.
We'll be lucky if in 40 years our grandkids even tune in.
We'll have 8,000 episodes and only 2 downloads per episode. It's you and that's hilarious.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Cool. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Al.
See y'all.